Welcome everyone. Good morning and happy Friday as well. Welcome to our session today. I'm Himanshu Joshi. I'm a product lead on the AWS Healthcare AI team. We are a team within AWS focused on building purpose-built services for healthcare and life sciences customers. So today we are going to discuss about something which every clinician wishes they had more of. No guesses there, like more time. Not more time on the keyboard or on more apps, but more time to face the patients and spend more time with the families. So I'm pleased to have Mirza and Ken with me today to talk about how AWS and Veradigm are partnering to truly transform the point of care experiences for clinicians through autonomous AI scribing as well as through secure data foundations. By end of this session, you'll get a deep understanding of how a combination of data foundations, purpose-built AI agents, and a great user experience at point of care can truly transform the clinician experience. Okay, so let's talk about the problem we are trying to solve here. So it's not a news to anyone today. Clinicians are literally drowning in paperwork. This is not what they went to the med school for, right? Today they spend inordinate amount of time filling forms, chasing clinical documentation requirements, as well as conversing with various stakeholders in their own clinic or outside to deliver the care. It leads to burnout, them spending more time on tasks versus truly facing the patient. As per a very famous study on Forbes, for every 1 hour which the clinician spent with the patient, they spend 2 hours on clinical documentation and administrative tasks. It leads to a lot of burnout for these clinicians where even after going back to their homes, they have to spend time writing notes or even answering the messages from patients. And that leads to burnout, also known as pajama time in healthcare. So I think the big question for us is, what can we do to really solve this pain point for clinicians and help them spend more time with the patients as well as with their own families. Let's briefly talk about what are these kind of admin tasks at the point of care. So if you look at these gamut of tasks, they happen across the life cycle. They start with, even before the visit, clinicians have to go through a multitude of PDFs. If you see that infinite scroll on the right-hand side of the EHR, to truly get the true longitudinal picture of a patient. They have to sometimes reconcile, medication list in case the patient visited a specialist and they again came back to the primary care provider. At the point of care, they have to take shorthand notes while conversing with their patient, which sometimes not leads to such a great experience for the end patients. And even after the visit is being over, they have to fill forms for prior authorization, converse with the medical and billing teams, and so on and so forth. So today, generative AI does provide a great opportunity to transform these experiences for providers. And let's talk about the how. We at AWS, we truly believe that solving this administrative task burden problem for clinicians is just not about the AI layer, right? There is no AI wand you typically just wave, and all of these administrative challenges for clinicians go away. We believe it's a combination of an AI-ready data foundation so that all the agents which are deployed at point of care, they truly have the entire patient context. Then on top of the secure data foundation, we have healthcare-specific agents which are really purpose-built for doing a particular task well. It could be clinical documentation, it could be pre-visit insights, it could be medical coding and so on and so forth, but really healthcare-specific agents. And on top of it, these agents, along with the data foundation, have to be delivered at the point of care for the clinicians to use, right? Because if the end user experience for clinicians is not seamless, they have to change multiple apps to get to to use the right agent. Again, there'll be adoption challenges, right? But what are the challenges typically in doing stuff around the stack? The patient context is not easy to get in a singular format. It's even sometimes present in EHR, multiple different systems, PDFs, often not synthesized in discrete data format. When you talk about generating notes at the point of care. There are challenges around multi-speaker, multilingual. There is code switching between, let's say, English and Spanish, commonly known as Spanglish, and multi-speciality scenarios, right? Then there needs to be a lot of AI guardrails to ensure that whatever the agents are developed are deployed at the point of care. They're highly secure, and they earn the trust of the clinicians. And finally, integrating these agents seamlessly into the clinician workflow so that the clinicians have a super seamless experience deploying them. So we at AWS are innovating across the entire stack to deliver this truly differentiated experience in partnership with our end customers such as Veradigm and other EHRs. If you look at this diagram, there are three typical layers which you see which correspond to my previous point on innovating across the three layers. AWS offers customers secure healthcare AI data foundation through which they could store the data from disparate formats into purpose-built data stores, which is Health Lake, Health Imaging, and Healthomics. Depending on the type of data, if it's clinical data, you can securely store in Health Lake, imaging in Health Imaging, and Healthomics. All these services, they operate at petabyte scale and used by tier 1 AWS customers and follow all the tight security and regulatory grade compliance for healthcare data and AI. Then on top of it, we offer customers a suite of intelligent tool and agents. Case in point being AWS HealthScribe, which we're going to go deeper in today's session, which is a clinical documentation service purpose-built for generating clinical notes at the point of care. And our customers can also use a combination of AWS Bedrock and Agent Core to create custom agents to simplify the life of clinicians at the point of care. And finally, all these tools are available via APIs and SDKs, which can be integrated by EHRs and healthcare application at the point of care to deliver a truly seamless experience for the end user, which are clinicians. Let me quickly. Okay, so today we're going to go deeper into two of these services and talk about how Veradigm EHR has seamlessly integrated them in their workflow to deliver an experience for clinicians. Let's go deeper into HealthScribe first. So HealthScribe is, in very simple terms, is a generative AI-based service which creates clinical notes from patient-clinician conversation. An easy way to understand what HealthScribe does is, if HealthScribe is integrated at the point of care or within an EHR for a customer, clinicians can typically just tap on the mic and turn it on when the visit starts with the patient. HealthScribe's ambient capabilities listen to this conversation, and by the time visit is over, generate a very precise note for the clinician depending on their specialty or the visit type and so on and so forth. I want to highlight three key specialities which HealthScribe provides to the end customers. A, it's real-time clinical documentation. So moment the clinician starts speaking with the patient, HealthScribe generates real-time transcripts, which clinicians can keep on verifying on their screen. And within the few seconds of the note of the visit being over, it generates a precise note available at the point of care, which clinicians can easily review and submit in the EHR. With HealthScribe, we have AI safety guardrails built in. For us, AI safety and guardrails is not an option. It is a mandatory capability for any AI agent which healthcare AI team develops. To go more deeper into it, every node generated by HealthScribe is grounded in the source data. For example, let's say we go to the subjective section of the clinical note which HealthScribe generates. It will have reference to the original transcript or the conversation between patient and clinician, which the clinician can easily verify and get trust that, hey, there are limited hallucination or the notes are highly complete. And the last part is the point of care SDK. This is something super important. We truly believe that the best experience for clinicians is where they don't have to switch applications or make changes in their workflow. With our APIs and SDKs, HealthScribe can be easily integrated into any application. Could be an EHR, could be an ISP-based application, so that the clinicians can simply click on a button to turn on the mic and start speaking with HealthScribe. Now, talking about what are we doing with HealthScribe, what are the new innovations we are building in 2025. So our end vision with HealthScribe is truly an experience where clinicians don't have to make any edit to the note. Like, moment they speak with HealthScribe, they can keep on facing their patient, have an absolutely hands-free conversation, and towards the end, a note gets generated. They can simply review it with limited or no edits and submit it, right? So we've been doing a bunch of innovations to make it possible. I'm going to talk about a few now. The first one is the patient context integration. Oftentimes, there are sections in the note which already have discrete data available in the EHR. So let's say patient's demographics, nouns, and even let's say problem list and so on and so forth. With a new launch of patient context integration, at the time of a new HealthScribe note being generated, customers can simply add patient context from the EHR or from their application, and we will seamlessly weave that in the note itself. The benefit to the end user is that they don't have to repeat the same information which is already present in the EHR, such as demographics, let's say certain allergies or pronouns, etc. So really makes that journey towards a no-edit based experience a reality. The next thing which we are super excited about is in 2025, we have also launched a new purpose-built AI model. We have fine-tuned a model purely for point-of-care clinical conversations. What that allows us is really highly precise note generation controls so that we can control the verbosity, completeness, and other aspects such as hallucination in the note really at a note and a line level. The third super exciting feature is we have launched 5 new note templates and tasks. Our customers across specialties, in physical health and behavioral health, keep on asking that, hey, could we already have pre-generated templates within HealthScribe? And when the final note appears, they don't have to edit the note and adjust it in the format they required. This year, we have launched 5 new integrated note templates, including SOAP, GURP, BURP, and SERP. These are also note templates for behavioral health specialties. And to truly make an experience where these clinicians do not have to edit the note at all. Finally, we are starting to integrate tasks with HealthScribe, right? So one of the tasks which clinicians typically have to do after a visit is write a patient-facing summary, right, which goes to the patient via an email or a printout and so on and so forth. Oftentimes, what we have seen is the patient-facing summary for the end patient is maybe highly medical or technical in nature. They're not easily able to understand it, right? So what we are doing with HealthScribe is, if customers set a particular transaction or conversation as generate a patient-facing summary, we generate a patient-facing summary which is super, super easy for patients to understand. It clearly talks about their medication, follow-ups, and all the steps so that the clinicians, A, they don't have to write the patient-facing summary, and number 2, it is super easy for the patients to understand the next steps in the care journey. And lastly, we have launched support for 18+ new specialties to really go towards the vision of having a no-edit based note. So there are customers who have multiple specialties being supported across the practice, large group provider practices. So in that case, now they love the experience where through a single ambient AI service, they can service the various specialties they offer. And finally, the specialist needs notes which are tailored to their specialty. For example, if you look at the way a cardiologist versus a dermatologist would write a note, they'll be quite different. Now, all these specialty-specific nuances are already taken care of in HealthScribe. Okay, so I'm now going to invite Ken on stage to really talk about how they've been using HealthScribe in Practice Fusion EHR and talk about the delightful clinician experience which they're offering. Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Matthew. So my name is Ken Shepard. I'm from Veradigm. My background is as a software engineer. Today we're going to talk some tech, some product, some strategy, so kind of all those things. I'll tell you a little about Veradigm. We have 3 teams. We have the provider team, where we have solutions for healthcare providers and patients. So that's electronic health records, practice management systems, billing systems, patient engagement systems. So everything a practice needs to run their business. We have a payer team. So they're engaged with healthcare payers like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Medicare, Medicaid, in doing things like retrieving charts so they can adjudicate claims, or creating point of care alerts for our practices so they can participate in value-based care. And then we have a life sciences business. So they take all of our data and they deliver real-world data, real-world evidence, try to improve health outcomes through clinical trials. So that's all about Veradigm. And then we're going to talk more specifically about our largest EHR today. It's called Practice Fusion, and what Practice Fusion is doing with HealthScribe and HealthLake. Practice Fusion is targeted at small, independent, ambulatory providers. It's not used in hospitals. It is used by some large practices, but the sweet spot is really kind of the 1 to 3 provider space. So it's designed to be modern and accessible. It's 100% running in AWS. Our mantra is live in 5. So anybody right now could go to www.practicefusion.com, get a free trial, put in your credit card, start a subscription. You have a real EHR. You send us your medical credentials. We enable you for e-prescribing, lab ordering, and you're off to the races. And that's really important to reduce administrative burden, that people can use our product, be supported easily. Again, because these practices are small and independent, they don't have teams of people to train them. So it's designed to be very streamlined, very simple, very accessible. And then the PF platform is a pretty large footprint. There are 5 million patient visits on that platform a month, 60 million a year. Why we're talking, there's going to be tens of thousands of people that are being seen on the platform, getting e-prescriptions, charting happening. Okay, next. So as Himanshu said, for every hour a clinician spends taking care of patients, they spend two more hours on administrative tasks. A bulk of that is charting, but it could be all the other things, prior authorizations and such. And I think we've all seen that the exam room computer is really a barrier to patient care. We've all been sitting on the table where our healthcare provider is pecking away on the computer. That's clearly not, and that's been going on for 20 or 30 years. That is not the best way to take care of patients. So, so what we've heard from our customers over the last 2 years in our user survey, and the most recent one was just a few months ago, was the #1 feature request is ambient scribe technology. I've been working on EHRs for over 10 years. I don't remember a time where providers were actually asking for a new technology. Many of them would prefer to still be on paper. So this is a sea change. And 60% of our users are reporting using some form of ambient technology, which is staggering. That was not anywhere near that. We didn't ask that question even 2 years ago. We asked a little different about dictation and such, but it was nowhere near that 2 years ago. So huge demand from our users. And from a return on investment, ambient scribe, it's like all of the things. It saves providers time. It helps them produce better notes. If they produce better notes, they get better reimbursements. And ultimately, it's going to lead to better patient care. You're going to be able to find clinical trials for patients, all these sorts of things. So tremendous ROI for ambient scribe. Let's go to the next one. So we chose to partner with AWS and deploy an ambient scribe solution backed by HealthScribe. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about kind of the strategy and our thinking on why we did that around product fit. So we think ambient scribe is here to stay. We think it needs to be an organic, integral part of the EHR. We also think that the charting experience is going to evolve with AI, and Ambient Scribe is kind of the stepping off point for that, to connect lots of other AI capabilities. So we needed something where we had a trusted partner that could deliver the foundations and then we could innovate on. Versus in some places in our portfolio, we use partners. We just bring in a partner, they offer it to our users. We are still, full stop, we still have Scribe partners on our platform. We're going to continue to have Scribe platforms on our platform. But we think we can deliver sort of an 80-20 solution. We think we can deliver a solution that meets their note quality expectations, getting to that zero at its place. That's very simple. That's at the right price. So that's how we sort of looked at the need for this hybrid build, buy, and partnership strategy. The other challenge with product fit here is it's Gen AI, so it costs real money to run. It's not a SaaS application, right? Where you're probably not thinking a whole lot about, well, how much compute am I going to use? What's my infrastructure cost going to be? And we determined the only way we could get market fit and build an economic model was to actually ship something. So we had to see how people were using it. So with HealthScribe, it's one API call. So we were able to have a very small team, smaller than our typical product team, build a safe, reliable Scribe solution that we could go to market with to start to get this feedback to build the economic model and understand, how long are the encounters they scribe, how many encounters do they scribe, what's their satisfaction with the node output, all these other features, right? So that was very easy. We were also able to build it on our platform using APIs versus embedding it deeply in our platform initially as a way to go faster, which has worked really well. And we release every 2 weeks the Practice Fusion platform. Because the Scribe was built on the platform, it releases even more frequently. AWS gives us constant tempo of updates. We meet every week. We give them a long list of feedback from our users, and we get those updates. So I think we recently added the pronoun support, some of the stuff on Himanshu's roadmap you'll see in the product shortly. And then the final thing that accelerated this process of going to market was what AWS has done with responsible AI. So we're in healthcare, so we have to be careful. There are real patient safety concerns. If you have inaccuracies, there are bias and discrimination concerns. There's government regulation from the ONC around predictive DSI, where you have to have a risk management program in place and model cards and a lot of documentation to make sure that it's safe, to make sure it's not biased or whatnot. So AWS accelerated that because they had that in place, and that kind of got us 80% of the way there. And then additionally with AI, the HealthScribe provides source attribution. So you'll see it in the demo, but all the transcription is shown, or we chose to show it side by side with the note and link it. And that gives our providers trust that it's accurate and kind of cross that technology adoption chasm, because they see this is what you said and this is what the note said, right? And we've gotten a lot of good feedback about that. Let me see anything else. Okay, so and at the end of this, so this is really about us and why we chose HealthScribe. We were able to build the economic model and understand the usage, understand how we can go to market, tons of feature feedback, and keep deploying it. Most important is what were the outcomes for our providers. Okay, so number one is they saved a tremendous amount of time. So this is almost unbelievable. they estimate 2 hours per day saved per provider. This is a combination of surveys and us looking at analytics from providers that are using the system extensively. You know, if they use it for one encounter a day, no, they don't save 2 hours, right? But so, and there's lots of published data that scribes can do this type of thing. So we love that. It was very easy to adopt. Okay, so 65% of our users needed no training, and I don't mean human training, I mean watching the videos or whatever. Most of them could literally click to launch, hit record, understand what was happening, you know, hit record, hit pause. When you're done, you hit save. That's it. So that's great, and it goes to our ethos of self-service. We saw a lot of good qualitative feedback about patient focus. So 4.6 out of 5, Scribe has reduced charting time while with my patients. I have some quotes on that too. I mean, that's where we really want to get. We really want providers to be able to focus more on their patients, and lots of other data out there too around how patient satisfaction increases and such when you're using Scribes because of that personal attention, I think. And then we learned a lot about note preferences. And our providers gave us a lot of feedback. There was a lot of satisfaction with note thoroughness. In some areas, providers have very diverse preferences. Some people want bullets. Some people want narratives. Some people want short narratives. Some people want long narratives. Some people want the pronoun of the sex of the patient. Some people want the pronoun that's stored in the EHR. Some people want to call them they. Some people want them called patient. So there's all these preferences that we've been working with the AWS team for HealthScribe to support, and we've deployed many of those. Let me move on. So here's a quote. This is what we kind of like to see. Scribe has allowed me to complete 95% of my notes immediately after seeing the patient, even more so than other AI ambient scribes I've tried. Again, the goal here, and I think everyone's going to get there, is 0 edits. Everyone, I don't know if it's this month or next year, I think every scribe, health scribe, is going to get to 0 edits, and which would then allow us to just expand the AI capabilities of the platform. So another quote: Scribe is making me more efficient. Called the HPI section and plan are verbal things. I'm not typing those out anymore. Scribe is capturing them well and putting them in my note. Otherwise, when I'm in the room, I'm typing to keep up with them. All I have to do now is just go back, read the note from Scribe. So this is what we like to hear, and again, this is where we think we're going to get to, 100%. Okay, so I'm going to do a demo. This demo is a little rough. Be transparent. EHRs are very information dense. This is information dense. We kind of blew it up to full screen. What you're going to see in a second is just a short video of us launching the Scribe in full screen so you can see it. An encounter being transcribed, so you see the transcription, and then the evidence, the transcription is the evidence, but the transcription and the note, and then you'll see the actual generated note, and then you'll see it get saved, so it populates in the actual encounter for the patient. So if I just click, will this go? Oh, it's playing. Okay, it's playing. Yay. So yeah, on the left you can see the transcripts. So this is already started. They just hit save. It takes a few seconds to generate the note. So on the left you see the transcript with the evidence, and then this is the actual note it generated, and then they can save it to Practice Fusion. So a couple things. We built it, again, we wanted to iterate fast, so we built it to be dead simple. We get a lot of good feedback about that. We also built it, this is the first time we've built something in the EHR in a separate window. We thought that was suboptimal, but we're actually getting a lot of good feedback that, because our provider, a big use case for the Scribe is you put it on your phone and use that as a microphone in the office, right? So having it as a separate window is working well for us now. As more AI capabilities come online, things like coding and agents and such, it will get built more deeply in the EHR. You can see not a lot of real estate. So we have gotten actually good feedback about the separate window. We'll just go to the next one. Okay, so what's next? We're working with AWS to develop analytics to compare the scribe-generated note to the final note. To me, this is super cool and super exciting. There are not that many features where you can get this kind of quantitative data. So we will be able to measure how many edits did they make? How long did those edits take? Did they change a drug name because we got it wrong? Did they convert a paragraph to bullets? And we can do that on every note. So near real-time feedback about is it meeting the provider expectations? Also a good risk mitigation for safety. And we can have a big party when we start seeing a lot of zero edits, right? Because that's where we want to go. So we're working with AWS to create this pipeline, and eventually we think the data will be really good about the time savings and how few edits there are. We'll see. As I said, we're going to continue with deeper integration in the EHR. We're rolling it out the way it is now. It's working well, and taking on new features. And then at some point, hopefully soon, we will GA to all of our users. Right now, we're limiting who has access to it, so we can iterate on these features. As a AWS HealthScribe partner, our intent is to release new features as they come out from HealthScribe. So they give them to us in beta. We test them, make sure they work for our use cases, and release them. And then I think what's next is coming, which is Himanshu mentioned, is pretty exciting, is patient context. Because to be really specific, certain visits don't work without patient context. So if you have a very brief follow-up visit, and the doctor's like, "How are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm great." They're like, "Okay, well, give me a call if you have a problem." The Scribe doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't have context. But with us being able to pass in context into that encounter, it will know, oh, you're here for a follow-up visit for your shoulder surgery, and be able to generate an appropriate note. So it'll also, I think, ultimately make better decisions because it has context, whether it's demographics or problems or whatnot. So super excited about that, and that is coming. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back to Mirza and talk about Health Lake.
Thank you, Ken. Everybody hear me okay? Excellent. So my name is Mirza Beg. I'm part of the Healthcare AI team, same team as Himanshu, who was speaking earlier on the stage. So the last point that Ken mentioned was around patient context. And patient context obviously is embedded in a variety of different documents and different silos. And that's essentially preventing the true potential of all the AI agents that are in play. So one of the things about data silos is that, in this particular instance anyway, data is in multiple tables, right? 500 plus tables that are perhaps in an EHR or some relational database. Additionally, you have the data present in a variety of different formats, either in times of storage or in times of exposition or whenever that data is particularly shared. So you may have, for instance, CCDAs that are being shared, or the fact that the data is in relational and then as a CSV is being spit out, right? So you have that piece of it, but you also have the ontology piece of it, which is also complicates, adds an additional layer of complication on top of it, right? By ontologies, I mean the ICD-10 code. So for instance, if HbA1c is referenced and there's a 7.1 figure there, is it in percent? Is it in mg? Is it in, right? What's the unit value, for instance? Was it done via lab, right? Was it a lab that had a specific CPT code versus a home device, for instance, which has a different CPT code, right? Was it type 1 diabetes or was it type 2, right? There's an ICD-10 association with that. So all of these various things are sort of additional layers on top of the multiple formats and also the ontologies that complicate the collation of data for analysis and making it available from an agentic perspective. So you have that layer as well. And then, as you all know, right, majority of the data is actually in unstructured format. It's embedded in notes. Both Himanshu and Ken talked about note generation. Ultimately, the next time the patient visits, that the context that was generated in the note has to be sort of brought in, right, as the patient encounter is going to happen in the next time. So, plus all the various encounters that happened in the past as well. You may have hundreds or thousands of pages of notes that are essentially unmined. And not just unmined, but you also have, again, the various ontologies that perhaps are not clear enough for it to be taken as a nugget of information, right, from an insight perspective. So you have all these various complications and various silos. So I want you to concentrate on the middle part of the screen and not on the left-hand part of the screen. So what we have decided from a tech stack perspective is to hone in on a common data model. That common data model is FHIR. It's not AWS's, right? It's not someone, it's an open source, right? There's a community aspect to it that basically creates this particular common data model. And that common data model has an overall RESTful API architecture. What that means is, for instance, if you say that you have a FHIR API endpoint, I know, for instance, in order for me to get, let's say, the first name or the last name of a patient, there's a specific search string that I need to sort of employ in order to fetch that information, right? It could be like base URL / patient or question or / patient question mark, right? Family equals, let's say, big, right? If you're fetching my information. Consistent across the board, right? You're not reinventing the wheel. So it's a standardized data format that makes it all available, not just in terms of how the data persists, but how that data is also exposed back, right? Through APIs, through search parameters, et cetera. And one of the key things is that I want you to sort of understand that this is all referential. It's not relational, right? What this means is that, for instance, let's say in the encounter, right, there's an observation. That observation is related to an encounter. That encounter is related to, let's say, a condition. And the condition is related to a patient. Patient has a relationship with the practitioner. Practitioner has a relationship with an organization that he or she belongs to, right? So you have these, you can almost like walk the graph, right, in terms of creating this particular referential dots, these connections across the board. So that makes it much more easier for you to be able to sort of provide context. Ultimately, it's not about just the patient data or the condition. Of course, it's about that as well, but it's also about the healthcare system, right? The healthcare provision system that makes it happen. And that is all part and parcel of the various references that are available in this common data model, right? So the healthcare specific context, and of course, the schema part of it as well. Fairly prescriptive, meaning, for instance, if I want to store a loin code associated with checking for my HbA1c, for instance, there is a code system and a value set that is referenced when that assertion is made. Meaning the doctor may simply say, right, or obviously put in the EHR that do this particular test, right? But that text has a reference in terms of what that value means, right? Meaning there's a loin code that has a specific CPT assertion to it that then sort of combines, and then that particular test is done. And when the results are consumed back, that reference back to that order vis-a-vis the code systems and the value sets, and plus the unit value that came out as an outcome for that particular results, are all stored in this particular schema, which is ripe and available for you to be able to pull that nugget out without the model or the agent sort of having to think about or take a guess, right, on what that sort of means. So all of that, right, overall is part of the overall standardized healthcare resources. On the left-hand side, obviously, you have all these various use cases, right? HealthScribe can plug into that. You have multiple agents, could be proprietary, could be third party, right? So you have all of those various things. This particular slide essentially sort of puts it in a different sort of a lens, right? Because I'm not talking about the data model here. I'm actually talking about how that overall environment actually works symbiotically and seamlessly together. So on the left-hand side, I've described to you all the various different sources, right? And there are more. I'm sure you're sort of experienced them as well. In the middle rib, you have the various formats. And then there's a translation layer with data transformation agent, with partners and conversion that needs to happen, but that data eventually gets into Health Lake. And Health Lake is then also has an integration with an MCP server, which then allows you to do queries and searches and summarizations as well for your overall patient context. Again, context is important, right? The fact that Mirza has a heart condition, let's say cardiomyopathy, right? That has meaning from a patient encounter perspective that the doctor and everybody else has to be aware of whenever that encounter is happening, right? So summarization and bringing that nugget forward as a sort of a key piece of information. And then all of that being consumed at this top layer, which is these use case specific AI agents. So I've spoken about, first, the model. The second slide was essentially around how that model fits in this overall sort of reference architecture. And this particular slide is speaking about the actual service itself, right? The service I'm talking about is Health Lake in terms of the fact that there's sub-second latency, which is extremely, extremely important in the case of Veradigm, for instance, because ultimately it's about patient care, and physicians and providers do not want to wait even a minute, right? The latency is extremely important for it to be responsive and from an adoption perspective as well, right? You all know this. So it's built for performance, it's built for scale, hundreds of terabytes of data. Ken mentioned, for instance, that there are 60 million encounters annually on that particular, right, the Practice Fusion platform. That's a hell of a lot of encounters, right? There's a lot of data that gets created based on those encounters. And you need to be able to do it whether you're doing it for 10 gigs of data or 100 terabytes of data. That sub-second latency is extremely important. So performance, right? AWS, built for scale and performance, right? And then, of course, analytics is part of it, meaning that same data can now be analyzed in an iceberg table, because as a managed service, Health Lake has this component where that data is also then transformed into an iceberg table for you to be able to analyze. You use Redshift, Athena, bring in your third party as well, right? Databricks, Snowflake, et cetera. So that way you can actually go ahead and analyze that data, right? That resultant data, and also make that available to your AI agents as well. So with that, what I'd like to do is actually bring back Ken for the next couple of slides.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little about Health Lake, make a little commentary on the unstructured data problem. Healthcare providers are really busy and getting squeezed on reimbursements and such. They don't have, you would imagine as like an engineer, they would want to put all the structured data in there possible for some future use case. It doesn't tend to be what they do. They're busy. They put free text notes. So obviously AI is unlocking that. It's now turning those NLP notes into structured data, but that continues to be a huge challenge. So I want to start with a little history about why EHRs and why Practice Fusion is using FHIR and FHIR servers, because I'm not sure everyone understands the ecosystem here. So, to be a certified EHR means that you can use that product and get reimbursements from the government, Medicare, Medicaid, ONC, TRICARE, whatever, largest payer. They, just like any business would, they have requirements on the technology that gets used, and those are called being a certified EHR. So every year or so, we have to recertify to new requirements that the government puts on EHRs, because they're trying to control costs, improve health outcomes, all makes sense. One of the requirements from 2023 was to offer a full set of Fire APIs to app developers. So it's a document API, it's Fire, it's JSON, has several OAuth flows, a patient flow, provider flow, pretty modern. So in 2023, to meet that requirement, we deployed our first Fire server using a partner. I don't think 99% of our Practice Fusion users had heard of Fire, could spell Fire. So we did a very small investment to meet our requirements because our users wanted to just work on other stuff. Now, fast forward 2 years later, these Fire servers are getting used extensively. There are many thousands of practices that have signed up. There are hundreds of apps, 60-something% of the apps in our marketplace have some kind of AI hook. We're seeing more load, unpredictable load. We're seeing, unfortunately, our current capabilities limit what AI can do because we have to rate limit things and such. So for all those reasons, our current solution is expensive. So for all those reasons, we looked at HealthLake. HealthLake's about 5 times cheaper than our current solution. HealthLake is fully managed, so it's really a black box in a good way. We have to build some software around it, but it does what it's supposed to do. It's there, it's available, it scales, it meets its uptime and availability and performance SLAs. Again, it's scalable, so our practices can onboard themselves. They can onboard clients, apps, API clients. We can use HealthLake as an additional read, eventually consistent read load for internal workloads and take them off of our legacy systems. So the scalability is fantastic. Another thing that's important to us is compliance. So again, this is driven by, or was driven by the government. We have to maintain our compliance. Currently, we're at Fire R4, US Core 6, I think. But every year there will be changes. Maybe there's Fire R5 or Fire R6 next year. And AWS is committed to supporting that. So we know we can maintain our certification. We're not going to have to do schema migrations or deploy new hardware. So that is a great place to be for us. Again, for completeness, I will say it's not just the government now. Fire has become the absolute interoperability standard. It's a standard for AI interoperability. It's here. And then leaning in and looking ahead, I think Himanshu mentioned AI enabling data is hard. AI enabling EHR data is very hard. It's unstructured. It's deeply nested. There's all these relationships. You can imagine, ETLing into other data stores and putting it into vector stores and graph RAG and all this heavy lifting, keeping it up to date. It's hard, but we think HealthLake is going to make it a lot easier. So first thing, get the data in one place, right? If we can get all of our healthcare data in one place, that is a boon, okay? And some of the stuff you saw on the previous roadmap and some of the stuff we imagine coming with agents and MCP and such will allow AI to more easily consume that data, which is great. Because otherwise, someone's got to pull the Fire data, put it in another data store, put it in vector stores, all the heavy lifting, right? So we expect that HealthLake will enable AI innovations for us. And then leaning in a little more, we've been talking about reading data. Well, HealthLake is a great place to land AI-generated data, AI inferences. So an EHR with its relational schema, no one really thought about AI inferences. Relational schemas are slow to work on, risky. Whereas with HealthLake, if I infer a condition or an observation, that's a HTTP put or post of that JSON element. I can mark that it's AI generated, and it can become the source of record for that inference that then the EHR can read, or other AI consumers or APIs can read. So that's longer term our intent to start allowing AI data to be written there. Anything else I want to say here? So this is very much why we chose it. Here's a very simplified architecture of what we're doing. Kind of hello world, but we have the EHR on the left. It has its relational database. It has Dynamo and S3 and Redis, lots of other stuff too, but the big hitter is the relational. And it's going to stream its data into HealthLake, okay? And then on the right, we have AI clients, interoperability clients. We have our bespoke APIs. And all of those can now read off of HealthLake without worrying about scale, right? Without worrying about scale, which is a nice place to be. And again, get loads off here, get loads off, Dynamo, get whatever. And then in the long run, we would like these AI clients to be able to write their inferences back to HealthLake. So whether it's a third-party solution, whether it's HealthScribe, as it's generating more and more, inferences, codes, whatever, or our own Bedrock-based AI solutions, those can all write to HealthLake, and it can become the source of record for that data. And then the EHR can make a choice. It can say, well, I'll just render it from HealthLake because it performs well. It's called a lake, but it's really like a document database in terms of like performance. And then the EHR can make a choice. Do I want to ingest that data? Do I want to incorporate it? What do I want to do with it, right? So we like this vision of the future architecture as a way to AI enable our data and provide more AI solutions to our customers. What else? Okay, so what's next? So we are migrating our clients to HealthLake. So we have our legacy solution, we have our HealthLake running in production, we're migrating our clients, kind of managing bubble costs and all that. We intend to enable AI clients to use HealthLake as their primary read store. So it's enable, it's encourage, let's increase rate limits, all that sort of thing, so they know they can really win on our platform and provide AI solutions to our customers. We intend to migrate additional workloads to HealthLake. So I mentioned we have a payer business. The payer business delivers fire bundles. They deliver CCDAs to payers. Let's get them from here, right? Because this is actually super pristine data. It also has all the security tagging, restricted disclosure rules. Those are all embedded in Fire, so you can deliver data in a compliant way. And then leaning into it again, we're not doing this now, but we intend to. Let's allow AI clients to use HealthLake to store those inferences, because again, I think that would be tremendously agile. Okay, that's what I have. So it's back to Mirza.
Yeah, thank you. Please go ahead and just stay in the stage.
Okay.
We have 2 more slides. One is just want to encourage you all to start building with HealthLake, not just with HealthLake, but also with HealthScribe as well. HealthLake, obviously, just a quick, you can basically spin up a data store by going to the AWS console in less than 30 minutes, and you will have one ready to go from a testing slash development perspective. Similarly, with HealthScribe, you can also go to the console. You can basically mimic a conversation, right? And it will then go ahead and create a node for you. So you can start testing out, and there's an SDK that's also available that you can leverage as well. But the point of it is to basically give you the tools, right, for you to be able to start not just capturing pristine, accurate, relevant notes, but also then enabling that node with a wider contextual setup, right, on a common data model, which is basically the combination of HealthLake and HealthScribe, which is what we're basically proposing here, and what basically what Ken was speaking to about regarding Veradigm as well. So common data model, enterprise grade, and fire resources and security and performance as well, along with the controls that we had talked about with HealthScribe as well in terms of responsible AI, guardrails, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those again are both managed services, meaning you're not having to do sort of the stitching of all the various different components in the back end. You're literally just leveraging the APIs, right? And off you go, because then you can sort of focus in more on the higher value propositions that you and your teams are essentially building. So that's sort of like the key sort of takeaway that we want you to sort of walk out with. And then, of course, build transformative healthcare experiences as well by bringing in natural language querying interfaces and the fact that all of that data is available for you to be able to then trigger additional workloads that perhaps are also potentially calling other agents that you may be leveraging as well. So with that, we have 2 QR codes in case you want to sort of capture those. If you don't happen to capture them, just go to aws.com/healthlake or aws.com/healthscribe, and you would be ready to go because the product pages would essentially lead you to the console and any other information that you may need to sort of start testing and using. Any last words, Ken, Himanshu?
Happy to answer questions.
All right,
after
cool.
we wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what. So I think we're available for a few minutes post the session. Happy to engage as Ken was mentioning. Thank you so much.